Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back, dear viewers, for another episode of Gates of Goodness, where every night during this blessed month of Ramadan, we will be visiting new topics in hopes to enjoin upon goodness, in hopes to increase in nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm your host, Youssef Kromah, and tonight we will be discussing the pertinent topic of speaking truth, of being truthful, and that is truth with a lowercase t. Of being truthful as opposed to being a liar. And before we get too deeply into this topic, we're going to begin by introducing our honored guest. Firstly, we'd like to introduce Brother Kareem Adid. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
MashaAllah, as always, it's a pleasure to have you.
It's always a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Alhamdulillah. Next, we have the veteran of the show, Brother Idris Sora. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm excited to be here and learn some stuff and hopefully benefit from you wonderful brothers.
MashaAllah, tabarakallah. And last but certainly not least, you have Brother Amr Abdul Al, aka Ibn As.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So we're going to get right into the topic. I have a quote here I think is really nice. The truth is incontrovertible. Malice may attack it. Ignorance may deride it. But in the end, it always is. So, we're going to first start by defining how we're going to frame truth, because there's the truth of the capital T, as we talked about earlier, the truth, speaking the truth, and there's also speaking the truth when, as opposed to lying, as you said. So we just want to frame how we're going to use the truth in this particular episode.
I think we're going to use it with a small t.
Okay.
We're going to use a small t. I think there's several aspects we might touch upon today. Truth, being truthful with yourself, in terms of checking your sincerity and al-ikhlas, and being truthful. What we're going to emphasize more on is truth with other people. This will carry on from the idea of akhlaq and the idea of truth in your dealings with people, in trade, with your family, with your enemies. What should you do? And it's subhanallah that today we're talking about truth, and today is the night of Badr, which is the ultimate day of truth. In terms of this was when the Yawm al-Furqan, the day where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala divided falsehood and truth. It was the first ghazwa, the first battle led by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and this was the first actual stand by the Muslims in terms of battling for truth. And they were a small number of people, 313, very, very underarmed, against an army of the strongest. Quraysh came in with everything they had to annihilate the Prophet ﷺ, and this was the first stand for the Muslims. They knew they were going to die, but they were willing to stand up for the truth. So I think it's that we do it today very appropriate for this idea that truth comes with consequences. Sometimes, yes, you might lose things because of truth, but is it worth it? For us Muslims, definitely. وَكُونُوا مَعَ الصَّادِقِينَ, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and be with those who are true. Those who are true. Ibn Qayyim and Ibn Kathir, when he's talking in the tafsir, he says that being true is being with those who are true to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and true with themselves, and they have true sincerity in their dealings. So this idea, وَكُونُوا مَعَ الصَّادِقِينَ, صَدَقُوا مَعَ Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They are true with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَلَا يَخَافُونَ لَوْمَةَ لَائِمٍ. They do not fear anybody who makes fun of them or tells them why you're doing this. Being truthful all the time, and knowing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a Razzaq. He's the one that gives you, if you're afraid that your trade will diminish, it's not because of truth. In the end, this is the money of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's the provider, and He provides you with halal, and there's so much barakah in halal. So this idea of standing up for truth and speaking it out, and under all circumstances, the Prophet ﷺ, he talks about truth. He says that you should be truthful and maintain truth and try and find truth until you are written by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala مع الصادقين. And he talks about keep on saying the truth, because the truth leads to al-birr, which is righteousness. And keep away from falsehood and lying, because you keep on lying until you become written as min al-fujjar, fajr, wrongdoer, and one who's gone astray. So the consequences of saying the truth are much bigger than just one action. These are and a lie draws another lie, and being truthful just is so much more relaxing once you say the truth. Then you don't really have to remember all the lies and write them down and know what you're saying. I said this, and no, I told, and then the two people come in and you're like, which one am I going to do now? And you try. So just be truthful. Just, I mean, what happened. If it's something wrong, then you need to repent to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If it's something that was, you hurt someone, then you need to own up to that, man up, and say, yeah, I'm sorry, I did this, I shouldn't have done this. But all of this wishy-washy type thing and trying to get away from things, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alimun basir. He's the all-knowing and He sees you. So even if you can get away with it in dunya, you're not getting away from it in akhirah. So being truthful is truly, this is the way of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said it as it is from the beginning. He could have in Mecca, he could have played around with stuff and say, well, we can have some of your stuff and take some of our stuff.
Yeah, right.
It was, this is it. Lakum dinakum waliya din. This is the way it is. You want to accept it as it is. You come. Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu dkhulu fi silmi kaffa. Enter Islam as a whole. We don't pick and choose. We take the whole thing. This is the truth. We speak about the truth, and we do it all the time. So I think the truth in general, as the big T and the small T, very, very much they lead to each other by following, keeping the truth. And we talked about this yesterday, about the idea of the big T is the inner truth, al-sidq al-dakhili, true iman, and the small T is from the akhlaq, which is outside and what you're doing to the people, and they both tie up to each other. Well, if you keep the big T inside you and no one's seeing anything on the outside, all they see is you lying and you cheating, then that doesn't work. You don't cut it. Al-Muslim man salam al-Muslimuna min yadihi wa lisani wa yadihi. The Muslim, the true Muslim, is the one who the people are protected from his tongue and from his hands. They don't see anything that hurts them. That's a true manifestation of what he believes. Otherwise, yeah, I'm a Muslim and I believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and I know that He's the provider, and then you cheat to get money. Then there's something wrong there. You're just doing worshipping. Ta'isa abd al-dirham. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says that he's cursed the one that worships the dirham, the money. Nobody puts the money there and does sujood to the money. The idea that this money controls him, it makes him do things which go against what he should be doing in terms of. And the same thing, أَرَأَيْتَ مَنِ اتَّخَذَ إِلَهَهُ هَوَى. The one who has taken his Lord as his hawa, his whims. Again, nobody worships themselves. You don't look in the mirror and worship themselves. The idea is that he or she produces a sharia for themselves. They follow what they feel is good for them. And they pick and choose and they take this and they take that without being completely truthful and being completely reliant on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Lots of times we're tested, and this, like the quote was saying, you're tested, are you going to say the truth or not? If you believe in the truth and you know that no matter how hard the consequences are, they'll be much lighter than what might happen to you if you lie, then you will say the truth. You will stand up for what you believe in. It's because we doubt the wa'ad of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the promise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then we say, well, I'll just get out of this. Well, you getting out of this is a big problem. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, one of the companions, he came to him and he told him, I've got lots of things that I do wrong. What's the first thing that I should stop? So he said, you have to be truthful. So that night, the companion, he's walking, he used to steal, so he was going to steal, and then he said, well, I promised the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that I wouldn't lie. What happens if I go in the morning and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam asks me, what did you do last night? How am I going to say that I stole? I just met him last night, and in the morning I told him I want to be good, I want to change. So he decided to stop. And then the following night, again something else happened, and he stopped because of that. So it was because he decided to be completely truthful all the time. He knew that any time somebody asked him, "Did you cheat?" he'd be like,
Yeah, exactly.
It stopped so many other things because he knows that he can't do it anymore.
Yeah, my mother, she used to say to us when we were younger that a man who lies is capable of stealing, and a man who steals is capable of killing. You know, so one sin always leads into another. And she said the root of all those major sins is always has to do with lying. That's always the foundation to lead you into greater and greater sins. So a person who safeguards himself from lying, he'll safeguard himself from a lot of other major sins, as we notice an example of that man. And even Allah Ta'ala says in the Quran, "Qulu qawlan sadida yuslih lakum a'malakum wa yaghfir lakum dhunubakum." You know, you say a good word, you speak the truth, and Allah will straighten out all of your affairs. And this is something I always advise myself when I'm in like a predicament. I always say, no, I'm just going to tell the truth, and Allah promised He's going to fix the situation for me. So I just try to tell the truth, and then majority of the time, always Allah Ta'ala fixes the situation for me by just being honest, even when it's difficult to speak the truth. So I'm gonna, get you brothers involved in the conversation. What are some of the consequences of speaking the truth?
Consequences. The biggest thing I think consequences of course it's a good consequence, is that when you think about the Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, what was his number one quality? He was known before prophethood and even during prophethood and after prophethood. As-Sadiq, that was his name. He was the truthful. Even his enemies knew him as the truthful. So if we look at I think it's after merciful, and it was one of the most biggest qualities he had. And the second thing I would say is that people are known for their truthfulness. Throughout history, most of our ulama, the reason we know about them isn't because of the books they wrote. They're wonderful and they help us and they guide us, but most of the time it's because they were living truth. They told the truth. They were known for telling the truth. This is one, like, we can go down history, like, the biggest one that most people talk about is Ahmed ibn Hanbal. I mean, what he went through was because of the truth. And there's many, many, many more who were persecuted for telling the truth. I don't have to go through all the names, but you can look it up yourself. There's so many. We know them because of their stance on the truth. Not because of what they wrote and all these things, but because of what the quality of being truthful. That their work stand out because of this quality. Not the other way around. They didn't do the work and then they were known. The work was stand out because of the quality of being truthful. And the last thing I would probably say on it is that it's sort of a negative thing, is that when you're not truthful, losing this quality is hard to gain back. Once you're known as someone who's not truthful, it's not easy for you to get trust back. It's the one quality, you may hurt someone's feelings, you may do certain things. You could even steal something from somebody. But if they get caught and you told them, you didn't lie about it, you told them, you know what, I did it, I'm sorry, and you reconcile, a person could forgive you. But if you lie, it's very difficult for people to forgive you. And people, even though we should, as being a good Muslim, you should always try to forgive someone, but it's not easy, it's easier said than done. So this quality is so important that if you destroy it, it's very hard. That's why honor is one of the 6 sacred things in Islam. Your life and your honor is one of them. Why? Because it's hard to get back. Once it's smeared and destroyed, you need the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to restore this.
Yeah, honestly.
By yourself, it's very difficult. So that's all I'm
if you think about on a societal level, no matter how convoluted a person's beliefs is or deviant they are, nobody likes a liar. No matter how backwards you are, whatever you believe in, you could be an atheist, whatever you are, nobody likes a liar. Just socially, it's something that's just ma'ruf, is known that lying is wrong. Right?
Even thieves don't like liars.
Even thieves don't like liars. I think thieves especially don't like liars because liars don't like liars, right?
The honest thief.
Yeah, right. The honest thief.
So it's one of the most detested things you can be known. You don't want to be known as this. I know people have made the mistake of doing it once or twice. Everyone fall into it by accident or whatever. But don't make the mistake of becoming known for this quality. Because once you become known for this, you're really going to have a difficult life.
And I read a narration from Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and somebody was asking him, I can't remember some qualities, if a believer could have these qualities, and it was like, they were serious sins. Could he have this? He said, yeah, a believer can do this sin and be a believer. Can he do this? He said, yeah, he can do this and be a believer. And these like things that you would think, there's no way somebody could be a believer and do this. And then they said, could he be a liar? He said, no. A person cannot be a believer and be a liar at the same time.
And one of the most interesting sciences that my personal favorites when I'm studying through the years is the al-rijal. This science, when you start studying it, has a key point about lying. Not just lying, they have different ways like tadlis and so many different ways where it talks about like a person could be labeled as someone who's not completely truthful. Unlike us, just like we just know either lie or truth. There's so many different degrees of this and the study of hadith that it's amazing.
Brother Amr, I'd like to get you involved in the conversation. What are some of the consequences of being a truth teller?
Well, some of them, as Brother Idris said, can be negative. But if you think about it, it's not negative. It's for your own good. Because if you did something wrong and you're lying about it, this is not gonna improve your character or something. It's gonna get you out of this situation, but it's gonna get you in a much worse situation after this. But if you're speaking the truth and you're taking responsibility of the thing you did wrong, this is gonna change you on a personal level first, and you're gonna gain the respect of people for telling the truth, and you will be true to yourself, and you're not lying to anyone but Allah. Because people can believe you, it's fine. But you're not lying to Allah because He knows the truth. So what's the point of lying to people when people don't matter? What really matters is Allah. And you cannot lie to Allah because He sees you, He knows what you did and what you're going to do, what you wanted to do. So it doesn't make any sense. So maybe you think it's negative, that people can think of you as a liar, or can you can get rid of this situation now, but you're not getting rid of anything. You're just getting deeper. You're going to be soaked in the circle of liars. And as Brother Idris said, it's very difficult to gain trust back. And it's not, we have a lot of stories in our culture about the young boy. He was guarding the sheep, and then he tried.
All cultures have that story.
I think every culture has that story. Boy cried wolf.
Or the guy that was drowning, and then it's one of them.
Yeah, so it's very difficult to get. It can cost you your life.
That's true.
Because people won't believe you anymore. So maybe you think it's from the outside it's bad, or you're gonna be punished for telling the truth, but deep inside you're gaining yourself. No matter what else, you're gaining your respect, and you're gaining people's trust. Even if you did something wrong, they're going to respect you for speaking up and telling the truth.
Just to mention, in reality, when you think about it, you try to say that you're lying, but in reality, you're not lying because Allah knows the truth. Right. So you're exposing yourself. So you have to think, you're not really lying. You're not telling Allah knows it. So what's the point of trying to cover something which is already uncovered? It's uncoverable. You can't cover it before Allah.
We have this proverb in Arabic. Brother Kareem knows this. Lying has no legs. You know this? So whatever the lie you're making, it just won't go so far. It will collapse sooner or later. People know the truth. Sooner or later they will know, because a lie cannot stand forever. So it doesn't make any sense to just keep lying, and even people can know you're lying and just go with you. Like, you know you're lying, and we listen to you, and we just keep laughing.
Everyone has that person when you know that this guy's a liar. Everything comes out of his mouth, he's a liar, and everyone knows it, and everyone just lets him talk and takes what he says and doesn't take any attention to it, and no matter what. But this person actually has a really bad situation, because there will come a time when they need someone. Everyone will have that time where you need someone, or you have to do something, and when you do, no one's going to take you serious. No one will want to help you. No one will want to be with you, except those who have that in their heart to overlook it. We should do this, but reality is most people won't.
And that's why Islam stresses on the point of being truthful, because a Muslim cannot be a liar, because a Muslim is expected to be a leader, expected to be a successful person in society, expected to be good to his family, to the people, to the society. So if you're lying, if you're a liar, if people label you as a liar, there's nothing of this will happen. You're not going to be leading this society to anywhere. So Islam prevents lying, because this is why God sent us to this earth. Human beings should make earth better, a better place. And you cannot do this when you're lying.
If you tell someone, if you're known as a liar, and you tell someone, okay, this person's a liar, and then you go to a non-Muslim and you say, you need to worship Allah. He's one. They're going to look at you as this is a continuation of your lie. It's very detrimental for a Muslim, even more so than a non-Muslim.
And I think that one of the things that we were talking about now is this idea that we laugh at the people, and this is one of the things the Prophet ﷺ, in the narration, he two narrations. One of them is that, and he used to joke around with his friends, وَكَانَ لَا يَقُولُ إِلَّا صِدْقًا, and he did not say anything except for the truth. So joking around with them, one of the times he'd come to يَا ذَا الْأُذُنَيْنِ, oh, you who has two ears. Right. He has two ears, and or he would go and then he would pick up one of his friends and say, who wants to buy this this slave, meaning the slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he would play around with the words, but he would not say anything except for the truth. And in another hadith he says that that he's cursed the one who makes up stories to make people laugh. And this is one of the things people, this is a white lie. There's no white lie and black lie and grey lie. It's lie. It's big, small. They're just lies. There is no playing around, and this is the problem: is that you feel that I'll joke around now, but then, well, is he saying the truth now or not? And like Brother Idris was saying, is that when it comes to the real stuff, say I'm getting people to laugh, and then I'm telling them you have to do this part of the deen, and they're like, is this part of his lying, or is he just making this up? Is he exaggerating? And lots of people do this. They exaggerate to make people enjoy themselves. I'll just add on a couple more people in the story and make them dress them up this way, and they feel that's fine. This is a white lie. No one's going to get hurt.
That leads us into our next question, actually. Are there different categories of lying, different types of lying? Is like one type of lying worse than another kind of lie? How do we evaluate this?
Definitely there is, but then there is different types and there's different degrees. But for us, one of the things that we need to establish fundamentally is that this idea of this is a small sin and this is a bigger sin, so I'm just going to do the smaller ones. This is a very, very scary slope. Because in the end, any sin we have to, there's a famous saying by the scholars, you do not look at the sin that you're doing, you look at who you are sinning. And this is very clear. We need to understand that it's a small sin in terms of if you're counting numbers, but that's not the way it works. And even this small thing, if you're doing it because you don't really care of what's going to happen, then it multiplies. Because you can do something which is great, but then you feel very humble. You fell short on that part, or you just weren't strong enough to hold up your deen in that part, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will forgive you. It's a big major sin, but then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because of how your heart is and how much you do, and Ibn Qayyim talks about this, and there's رب معصية أدت إلى توبة ورب توبة أدت إلى معصية. No, you feel that you are رب طاعة أدت إلى معصية. You do some form of worship and then say, oh, look at me, I'm the greatest man in the world, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has to thank me for all the goodness I'm doing. And then you've got, you did this good deed, but then this kibr in your heart made it a catastrophe. لا يدخل الجنة من كان في قلبه مثقال ذرة من كبر. No one will enter paradise who has arrogance in his heart as much as an iota of arrogance in his heart. So because of this good deed, you had kibr on somebody else. You look down on this guy, he's not praying Taraweeh like me, then he'll go into Jahannam. And I'm the good one. I'm going to be in the Firdaus al-A'la with the Prophet ﷺ because of all my beautiful sacrifices. And the other way around, a sin, and then you say, just a small one, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala won't care, and لن تمسنا النار إلا أياما معدودة. This is what the people of Bani Israel said. They said, we will not enter nar, hellfire, except for a couple of days. أتخذتم عند الله عهدا أم تقولون على ما لا تعلمون. Do you have an agreement with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala about this, or are you saying stuff that you have no dalil for, nothing to prove? So this is something we need to, whether there's degrees, there are. Obviously the biggest and highest one is lying on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, either hiding the truth. That, and this happened with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, obviously with the Jews in Medina. They knew the truth. They knew the truth. They knew to the extent that lots of Jews, they went to Medina because they knew that this was the place where the final prophet will come.
They were waiting for him.
They knew him. They knew his name. They knew his companions. They knew how he looked. They knew where he's going to come from. They knew it. But then when he came in, he's like, no, but this guy he's from the lineage of Ismail. That doesn't work for us. He's not one of ours. Where's our guy? That's not going to work. So what are you going to do? We just say, no, we're just going to have war. And the other thing is that they worshipped, in terms of rulings, their scholars. The ahbar, they were the ones that ruled. They had these gatherings, and then now suddenly, oh no, we're no longer going to have these gatherings. We have to go and listen to the Prophet ﷺ. We have to be talabat ilm. We have to be people who are going to study. That's not going to work for us. We don't want any of this. So we're just going to hide this truth. We're going to make stuff up. And you find it even through if somebody reads through the Torah, there's also stuff, the story is there, but then they've just made modifications so it doesn't work anymore. It doesn't fit in with the Muslim Quranic idea of the story. But the stories are, because they all come from the same source, they've just made up stuff. So obviously this is the highest level, hiding the truth, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has provided, in whether it's people of the scriptures or people now who, they ask them, is this a ruling in Islam? And they say, no, this isn't a ruling of Islam. It's just to make people happy. And obviously right under them or with them is somebody who lies on the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, making up hadith, saying قال Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then they say stuff like this, and then whatever it is, they just and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, whoever makes stuff up as if I've said it, then they should prepare their place in hellfire. They know that they're going there. Because this is a problem, because our sources are pure. When we get people coming in and saying, well, we'll just put this ayah in and this, and then me as a neutral party listening, I'm like, what is this? This isn't pure anymore. This is, who said this? How is this true? How does this fit in? So the Prophet ﷺ emphasized this because we need to keep our sources as pure as possible. This is our biggest pride, is the purity of our sources. When Brother Idris was mentioning Ilm al-Rijal, this is one of the main sources of how our sources, al-manaba', are pure. The sources of all the information we get are pure. And this is the difference and distinction between us and any other religion, is that we have a direct connection between us and the Prophet ﷺ, and from Prophet ﷺ to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through Jibreel alayhi salam. So we've got this chain, the chain of narrators. It's pure. We know Idris narrated from Amr, narrated from Kareem, narrated from Yusuf. We know who Idris is, where he lived, who he talked to. Did he ever lie in his life? Did he joke around? Yes, no. Did he travel when he lived? Where did he go? Who did he listen to? We know exactly. And this same chain of narrators is the chain of narrators that brought the Quran and the Sunnah with it. So our sources are pure, and this is what وَكُونُوا مَعَ الصَّادِقِينَ. People are true. This is an honor for us that we are the ummah of truth. And this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will get us as shuhada on the people, because we will say the truth and we will testify that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam brought everything pure to us so that we can perfect the deen.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. We're going to continue this conversation, but right now we have a report from Al-Izz ibn Abdul Salam concerning the importance of speaking the truth. We'll be right back there, viewers. Stay tuned. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
The emissary was a counselor in court, and he was pleading his case very earnestly, speaking at length before concluding in the following manner. I only want the best for you, the king, and the people. Your presence by the side of the king will only be for the benefit of the people and will strengthen the Muslim community, particularly at this time of imminent danger. I'm sure if you will only moderate your stance a little, everything will be set right. You will be restored to all your positions and even given higher ones. All that you have to do is to kiss the hand of the king and show courtesy to him. The counselor looked up to the scholar waiting for a reply, but of all the replies he hoped for or feared, he could not have expected what he actually heard. How ill you think of me! You are suggesting that I kiss the king's hand? I do not accept that the king kisses my hand. You people live in a world totally different from mine. The scholar was Shaykh al-Islam Izzuddin ibn Abdul Salam, and the king was Salih Ismail of Syria. At the time, Syria and the surrounding areas were divided into a number of little states, some parts of which were occupied by the Crusaders, who had their own little states and kingdoms. Egypt represented a danger to some of these mini-states because Egypt could claim back these areas, and they were united under Salahuddin al-Ayyubi, Saladin. After his death, they were ruled by his children, with the expectation that they would continue to function as a single unit against external danger. Now the king, Salih Ismail, began to collaborate with the Crusaders in order to strengthen his position against his rivals, particularly the king of Egypt. He went further than that and gave up some cities to the Crusaders. Izzuddin was very angry at this realignment, and he expressed his opposition in the clearest way, stopping the traditional prayer for the king during the Friday sermon, and even invoked God's wrath on the enemies of Islam, clearly implying that the king was one of them. The scholar, who was better known as Al-Izz, was kept in confinement for the rest of the king's reign. But the king was subsequently defeated and killed in a battle against the Egyptian army, and Al-Izz was honorably taken to Egypt, where he was to play a role of great importance. He was 60 at the time. What distinguished Izz-ud-Din more than his profound scholarly knowledge was his uncompromising attitude in maintaining Islamic principles and defending God's and people's rights. In all this, his courage was exemplary. Hence, he was loved and supported by all the people, respected and honored by kings and rulers. Indeed, he had many encounters with rulers. In Egypt, Izz-ud-Din was received most respectfully by the Sultan, who was known as the King Al-Salih Najm-ud-Din Ayyub. In Egypt, Izz-ud-Din was received most respectfully by the Sultan, who was known as King Al-Salih Najm-ud-Din Ayyub. Izz-ud-Din was assigned to be the Imam and Khatib at the Amr ibn al-As Mosque, one of the first and most spacious to be built in Egypt. He was also appointed Chief Justice of Egypt and professor of the Shafi'i Fiqh at the Salihiyya school founded by the king. When the time came to fight the Mongols, he said to the king of Egypt, "You want this coming battle to be for the sake of God, and you know that you cannot win it unless you have God's support. That is sure to come when the whole community, rulers and ruled, princes and commoners, nobility and ordinary people, show their dedication to the cause. If you ask the people, already heavily tasked as they are, to pay more taxes when they see the princes and the nobility leading a luxurious style of life, with their women adorned with expensive jewelry, they will not feel that they are fairly treated. Before you can raise taxes and have popular support for your measures, you need to take away what the princes, the nobility, and the rich have in excess of their needs. When they are brought to the level of the general public, you may increase taxes if needed. The new taxes will then be shared by all, as all will be at the same level. The people will then pay willingly. Moreover, we ensure justice, which is an important factor in making sure that we have God's support in our battle for His cause. We cannot fight for God's cause when injustice continues unchecked in our society. Thus, Izz-ud-Din's character shines before our eyes. He was courageous, firm, and dedicated to truth and justice, fearing no authority when he made a stand for what is right. But what sort of scholar was he? Izz-ud-Din belonged to the Shafi'i school of law, but he was a versatile scholar, qualified to exercise ijtihad or scholarly discretion in order to establish new rulings on the basis of the Quran and the Sunnah. We have seen how he exercised this in order to check the excesses of the state and to organize the general mobilization of the people to fight for the cause of Islam. But he also exercised this qualification in many other ways, ruling on numerous questions that were put to him as a judge or a scholar. Izz-ud-Din died in Egypt in 660 Hijri, 1261 Common Era, 2 years after the Battle of Ain Jalut. He was mourned by the entire Muslim world, particularly in Syria and Egypt. May God shower His mercy on him.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back, dear viewers, to another episode of Gates of Goodness. I'm your host, Youssef Kromah, and today we're discussing the significance of speaking the truth, of being a truth teller. Now, before we took to a break for the report, we asked Brother Kareem about the categories of lying, and he mentioned lying against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, lying against the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Now we're going to go to Brother Idris to add another category, and Brother Amr will continue, inshallah ta'ala.
I don't know if it's another category, but I guess I would look at it lying to yourself. I guess you can say it's another category. Because lying to yourself is an evil disease. I mean, some people lie so much that they start believing their own lies.
Yeah, it's a mental sickness.
It's actually, it's a thing. And you have to remember that becoming known as a liar makes you have a quality of a munafiqeen. As a munafiq, and this, just knowing the place of the munafiq on the Day of Judgment should scare you enough that you don't want to be known as that. But I want to clarify something because I don't want people to think that if you told a lie, it doesn't make you a liar. It just made you told a lie. A liar, being known as a liar, is a quality that takes a person who that takes time to build. That you always tell lies. Because a lot of times people think, oh, I told a lie, now I'm a munafiq. You should feel that way, but no, in reality, you're not a munafiq if you told one lie and made this mistake. Correct it and go and move forward to telling the truth. Just like vice versa. If you told the truth, it doesn't make you a person of truth. Not one truth. You need to build a character around it so that you're known. The Rasul wasn't known as a Sadiq because he told one truth. He was because he always told the truth.
That was his norm.
But lying to yourself is terrible disease. You could never become a better person. You can never go towards being better if you don't learn how to be truthful to yourself. You'll never be able to be a person who can, give in sadaqah correctly because you'll lie to yourself for all the reasons that, to get out of it. You can never be a person who could be good to your wife because you lie to yourself all the time about situations that you shouldn't lie about. I mean, lying to yourself causes so many array of problems to yourself that the biggest one being that you start believing in a lie, and this person is a person whose heart has become black. And Allah has covered sealed them to where they don't even know the truth anymore. Everything that they say is a lie, man, they see it as the truth. I think my teacher, Sheikh Jafar Idris, told us one time, one of our lessons, that it's probably one of the worst ways that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can curse someone is to where he becomes not able to distinguish between truth and falsehood. It's actually a punishment from Allah. People don't think that, oh no, it's just they don't understand. No, sometimes it's a punishment from Allah that He makes you not be able to see the truth from you because of what you've done, and your heart is black and you don't care. He's not doing it like maliciously. This is Allah, but He's doing it of what you've done. So lying to yourself is a terrible thing.
Yeah, there's even an ayah in Surah Al-Baqarah, في قلوبهم مرض فزادهم الله مرضا. Like, in their hearts is already a sickness, but Allah amplifies that sickness.
Yeah, so He's not giving you the sickness.
Exactly.
He's just, okay, you don't want to give it up after I told you how to do it and I'm giving you the medicine. You continue to refuse?
Exactly.
Okay, you know what? I'm going to make it even more miserable for you. For perhaps that maybe you will come back. But some people don't. It just gets worse and worse and worse until they die.
May Allah protect us from that.
I mean,
I would like to go to Brother Amr.
Yeah, and just to add to his point is, like, when you're lying to yourself, this will take you after some time to the next level of lying. You will start lying to Allah and lying on Allah's behalf, on the Messenger's behalf, and you're going to just, because obviously you're confused what's true and what's a lie. So you start just making up lies and you start believing them and telling them to people because you have this sickness in your heart. You're not sure anymore. You'll end up lost in this life because you don't know what's true, what's false. And another thing is, I think, lying to people. All of them, like, they are stages of lying. So if you're lying to yourself, it's so easy to lie to people because if you're not honest with yourself, how can you be honest with people? So you start lying to people just to gain some popularity or fame, to get a promotion in your job. You just lie to your boss and you start like being hypocrite in your society or your community you're living in. This will cause you more trouble than you imagine in the future, because as we said before in this show, it has no future. When you're lying, it will collapse. People will know, and people always know when you're lying. Even after years, they will discover the truth. The truth will be, as we say, prevail. So it doesn't make any sense to keep on lying to people because people will discover.
I just want to add one thing as an example of when people say, how do you lie to yourself? Another example of that would be whenever you've done something wrong and you know it's wrong, but then you try to convince yourself, well, maybe, I have an excuse, and you start thinking of ways, no, maybe it wasn't right, maybe it wasn't that bad because of this. You start trying to find an excuse to get out of what you did. That's lying to yourself. If you did something wrong, own up to it. Face it. Turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is Al-Ghafur. Turn to Him and ask for forgiveness. Don't lie to yourself and try to convince yourself that maybe it's not that bad. Own up to it and feel bad. This is the first step to being forgiven. So because some people, sometimes they might think, well, how do you lie to yourself? This is one of the worst ways of lying to yourself is when you do something wrong and then you try to justify it.
Yeah, there's a quote that says that trust is something that takes years to build or longer to build, and it takes seconds to sort of dismantle. So we want to go into the next question. Are there incidents in regards to Shari'i, where it's permissible to lie?
Okay. We'll do there are 3 incidents which we'll go to, and then we'll talk about an incident where you're not allowed to say the truth.
So you're not allowed to say the truth.
Yes.
SubhanAllah.
So just get people excited.
I know. The liars like this.
I'm that one. I'm
right.
For the 3 things, 3 situations which you are allowed to lie in are lying to make a reconciliation between 2 people. Obviously, even in these 3 situations, this isn't kind of a free pass to keep on lying about. This is just moderated lying to just. I mean, in Salah, for example, in Salah, everyone says in the Tahiyyat we send blessings on Salihin, generally speaking, on the Muslims. So if you go and you say 2 people are fighting, you say this guy is sending you salamat.
Right.
You're technically, even in that, you're technically. He didn't say send salam to Idris, but in the more general context, he does.
Exactly.
And then Salah, and he makes prayer for all the Muslims. So you just add him into those Muslims, and you send that in so that you can get them to be friends again, or at least to talk to each other, or to establish, to maintain this unity between them. So that's one incident. The second incident, obviously, is in war. You're captured, and they ask you, where are all the soldiers? Where are all? And then you say, over there, I'm not allowed to lie. That doesn't even make sense. You need to lie. I mean, you need to. You can't just tell them this is where everything is. That this is the enemy and this is the war. So that's the second incident. And the third one, which is the one that gets the most hype around it, is lying to your wife. Again, obviously, this doesn't mean lying to your wife about where you were at night. That's not what the hadith talks about at all. And it doesn't mean about lying about you doing all this stuff. It means in terms, again, to get your hearts closer to each other. She made the food, wasn't really that good. You don't really need to state it out there that, this was terrible, I have to say the truth. Kunu ma sadiqeen. That's not going to help you out. That's just the end of everything. You don't really need to do that. You can, and again, you don't need to say this is the best food I've tasted in my life, because she's going to do it again, and then you're just going to keep on. But you can be somewhere. This was very filling. It was a nice meal. Thank you very much for your efforts. You can go there and compliment her on many different things.
I just want to ask, just not to interrupt you, but also it's okay for the wife to lie to her husband for the same reason.
Definitely.
Right. Some people think it's just the man to the woman. If your husband comes and says, how's this suit? But it doesn't look good on him, they don't have to say, oh, it's terrible. You don't destroy your husband's ego. So,
and true, and it works both ways. And lots of people, and they underestimate the impact of the wife on the husband in terms of their
this is
self-esteem.
a big thing, yes.
It's a killer. I mean, they say, well, domestic abuse is always identified as the man oppressing the woman, because that's what happens in the majority of the times. But at the same time, the emotions of the man, if his wife tells him that he's ugly, he's poor, he's a miser, whatever. This stuff breaks him. It's for somebody who really cares and has this as a priority in their life, their family, and then you don't care about the family. You're no good. You're a bad influence to the kids. All this type of stuff is very, very. It destroys someone. So you can, if there's a problem, you can still state the problem, but you can put it in a sugar-coated way, which keeps the hearts close and keeps the household established. And the time where you need to not say the truth is when there's backbiting. There's something I don't like about Kareem, and he's not here. And then somebody asks me, "What do you think of Kareem?" I don't say the bad things. I just and then they bring up everything, and they bring all the good and the bad. Kareem is blah blah, and the Prophet ﷺ was asked about it, and then the Prophet ﷺ, they asked him, "What about if he has this trait?" And he still said, "No, this will hurt his feelings. You're not allowed to say this." And then because people play around with this stuff, because there's so much hawa, and the Prophet ﷺ said we have to speak the truth. So I'm just going to go out and tell everyone everything about. That's not what he meant.
Right.
Again, all of these things were the Prophet ﷺ, Allah SWT put the Sharia to establish good ties between people.
And it comes to hikmah as well, you know.
Definitely, the hikmah is is this appropriate or is it not? And what should I say? And they say, well, I have to say the truth so that I warn the people. Warn what people? These people don't even know him. These people don't know him, and who are you to warn anyone about anything? And this guy, he's not a prominent. This is different than if somebody's a public speaker and you might be saying stuff to warn people about specific things. This is just a layman is somewhere there, and you guys know Idris. Not really. Well, I'll tell you about Idris. And I'll tell you all the truth about Idris. I mean, why did you bring that up? And isn't this something that will hurt his feelings? Definitely. Then why are you saying this? Why? I have to speak the truth. No, you don't. You don't have to speak anything. You can. من كان يؤمن بالله واليوم الآخر فليقل خيرا أو ليصمت. You either say something which is good or you don't speak.
You're spreading animosity.
Exactly. And I think this idea of speaking is. This isn't what the Prophet ﷺ did. Yeah. The Prophet ﷺ and Sahaba, most of the time they were quiet. They didn't speak until there was more benefit in their speech than their silence. Yeah. And this is critical. We think that anything that comes to mind we have to say. That's not the way it works. You are going to be held accountable for every word you say. And the tabi'een especially, they know that they would count the number of words they said in the day. They know that we said 500 words today. Man. It was none of this random, so let's joke around here and talk about this here, and because each one of these words he's going to be held accountable. Why did you say this? Why did you crack this joke? Why did you make fun of this person? Why did you say this? Was there hikmah in this? Did you say this in the right place? Did you revise the ayah? All of these things you're going to be held. Nothing's just going to pass by. So the more you talk, the more you're going to be held accountable.
You know, Brother Kareem, they have this thing on Facebook now. It's pretty new, right? They'll have like memories for the day. Yeah. And the memories will be from 10 years ago or something like this, right? So you'll pull up a memory of something you said in 2009. You're like, I don't even remember saying this. Like, when did I say this, you know? So as another quote that says, the person who is truthful, he doesn't have to have a good memory, you know? Yeah. But you look back at your track record from maybe 2009, 2000, you don't remember. Imagine on the day of judgment when your books are open, things you said when you were like, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, everything is held, is written in the book, everything you say. SubhanAllah. So I'm going to talk about now, as you mentioned, ways the Sahaba used to stay away from being, liars or, from not telling the truth, was to remain quiet. One of the best advices I ever got in my life was, from Thalatha Usul, al-ilm qabla qawl wal-amal, that knowledge precedes speech and action. That saves me so much trouble in my life. If I don't know about something, I'm not sure or certain, don't say anything and don't act upon it. Save me. So, what are some advice for someone seeking to, remove, themselves from lying, or perhaps, tread the path of the truthful? Someone, seeking to begin to be truthful, more truthful.
I think first thing is that you need to be much more quiet. Yeah. If you don't speak, then you'll never say a lie. That you just keep quiet. You just keep quiet and hold back. You need to know what the benefits of saying the truth are. You need to have more faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you trust Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you will be more certain in what you're saying, and you won't fear people. One of the problems with lying most of the time is that your fear of the people is greater than your fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is why the Prophet ﷺ, when he said, could a Muslim could a believer do zina? He said, yes. Could he do sariqa? He said, yes. But when lying, he said, no. Because all of these are shahawat. These are temptations which, depending on what they increase, you could fall into that. But this one is something that premeditated. You're thinking about this. It's not something which you just fall into. You think, I'm going to establish this lie, and I'm not going to fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is the problem. It's a big one. And so I think this is increasing our belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Is primary. Not talking a lot, that will save us. Keeping good company, and looking at the consequences of our actions. I think these are very important to establish truth. If you hold on to these, you don't talk a lot, you read more about Jannah, and you read more about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you establish His names and attributes in your life, Al-Basir, Al-Sami', and everything, every word that you say, alayhi raqibun atid, there's a raqib, there's someone who monitors, and they're going to be writing everything down, and you live this life. I think the falsehood in your life will decrease dramatically. You'll be more sincere, you'll be more God-fearing, and I think it will change your life. truthfulness changes your life in general. Inside truthfulness and outside truthfulness. This is what it's all about. Inside, this is the ikhlas, and the outside, this is the sunnah.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Dear viewers, we reached that very, very sad time again where we have to end our daily program. This is Gates of Goodness. Alhamdulillah, the conversation has been Gates of Goodness. The conversation has been very beneficial thus far, encouraging our brothers and sisters to be truthful, to adapt the habits of those who are truthful, and hopes to increase their nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is one of the gates of goodness, which is to speak the truth. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us all from the truthful and to allow us to have the strength to speak the truth, even if we're in a room full of lies and liars. I'm your host, Youssef Kromah. You've watched Gates of Goodness. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.